In this first part of Johnny Chang's powerful four-part testimony, we go back to where it all began. Johnny opens up about growing up in a painful and chaotic home in the San Gabriel Valley, raised by immigrant parents, a mother who followed Buddhism, and a father who was an alcoholic and physically abusive. Searching for identity and belonging, Johnny was pulled into the gang life at just 12 years old. What started as a desire for family quickly turned into a life of crime. By 12, he was already facing his first criminal case. After serving time and being released at 16, he caught another case within 2 months. This time, charged with 2 counts of assault with a deadly weapon and tried as an adult, locked up and emotionally drained. Johnny wrestled with deep depression and a haunting emptiness he couldn't shake. An older inmate encouraged him to start reading and working out, which led Johnny to read both the Quran and the Bible, neither of which seemed to change him at that time, or so he thought. When he was released again, something had shifted, not in him, but in his mother. Though their circumstances hadn't changed, her joy had. Johnny couldn't understand why. What he didn't know then was that her transformation would eventually lead to his. This is part 1 of Johnny Chang's story, how God began planting seeds into the darkest places of his life, setting the stage for a transformation that would one day make him one of the most sought after speakers of our time. Listen to this.
Johnny, where'd you grow up? Where are you from?
I grew up in the San Gabriel Valley, on the border of East LA, Monterey Park, Alhambra area.
Which is a predominantly
Asian community.
Even the street signs are in Chinese there.
Exactly. So I had both my parents. My father was, I would say my childhood was kind of like miserable, filled with distrust. My father was a drunk, alcoholic. My mom was Taoist Buddhist, so it was kind of ran like a dictatorship. And we were really young, and my dad would actually beat us, me and my brother and my mom. I sent my mom to the ICU a lot of times, bunch of times. So it was very, very chaotic as a kid. And I think grew up around that type of environment where there was gangs, drugs, violence. We were low income, not stereotypical Asian, but we didn't really have much money. We grew up around a lot of Hispanics. There was a lot of culture shock as well. Our parents are immigrants, so they didn't really, know how to fit in. So we kind of had to learn everything from the streets. When I was young, I had a very peculiar mindset. I trusted in myself a lot because I felt like I couldn't trust my parents. One time, I was 10 years old and I got jumped for the first time. Had my backpack stolen, had my shoes taken. I went home and my father asked me, "Where's your backpack? Where's your stuff?" And I said, I got jumped by 4 Hispanics, and he didn't believe me. He thought that I threw away my backpack. He thought that I wasn't trying to do good in school. So he beat me after that. So yeah, I kind of went through a lot with the beatings and a lot of trauma. And so at the age of 12 years old, I actually joined a gang. I joined the Watchings, the Chinese triad type of gang out in that area, very big gang.
So these are Asian gangs?
Yes, a lot of Asian gangs out there. We're very incognito, hush, tight-lipped, but they do exist. And so I joined that at 12 years old. And a lot of people ask me, why would you join that? Why would you join a gang, at the age of 12? And a lot of people will say it's probably due to, their broken home or broken family or drugs or violence, just the environment. For me, particularly, in my opinion, I noticed that it stemmed from trusting and believing myself. When I was young, I thought that if I did everything I wanted to do, I would be happy. So having fun, going out with gang members, stuff like that, I thought was really fun. And the things that I didn't want to do, such as, exercising, studying, doing homework, I didn't do because I thought if I did everything I wanted to do, I would be happy. And the things that I didn't want to do, I didn't do because I didn't think it would make me happy. So I looked at the gang life, and it started at the core of my heart. You know, I really wanted to be a gang member. I looked up to those people. And so I joined that type of lifestyle. 3 months into it, at the age of 12, I caught my first case. And that was originally a kidnapping / robbery, but they dropped the charges down.
At 12 years old.
At 12. Yeah. And ended up, it was with a group of people, of course, but ended up catching the charge for dissuading a witness for the benefit of a gang. So ended up going to YA, California Youth Authority. I was at SRCC first, and then caught a couple fights in there, got written up. They call it level Bs. And then ended up going to Fred C. Nellis YA. And, you know, I was 12 years old. They gave me 4 years. And when I was in YA, I learned a lot of, like, it cultivated the mindset to believe in myself even more. I really trusted myself because I had seen rapes, I had seen murders, I had seen stabbings, fightings. I learned how to fight there. They call it gladiator school for a reason. You know, you fight a lot. And I learned, like, the 2-second takeoff rule, meaning if you feel disrespected within 2 seconds, you have to handle it, whether it's stabbing them, fighting them, beating them up. Otherwise, you'll be labeled a punk, excuse my language, a bitch, a leva, stuff like that. So, you know, I did 4 years there, and it was really, really traumatic. And I get out, you know, 67 days, 2 months and a week. I catch my second case. This time I'm an adult. They try me as an adult. It's 2 counts of assault with deadly weapon. Again, it was supposed to be a robbery and attempted, but they dropped the charge down. I pled out. They gave me 10 years, 85%, so 8 and some change. So yeah, I get to prison, and it's a whole nother ball game. It's first off, I'm Chinese, so being there, we were outnumbered. It really was a racial thing, whereas in YA, it was more of gangbanging. It was a little bit of race, but you had to represent your colors, represent your flag, represent your people. But when you go to prison, you have to drop your flag, you have to drop everything, and you have to represent the other car or the race, right? So in there, I had to calm down because I was a YA baby. I didn't know how to program. After about a year, I learned how to program the rules, the regulations, and everything. And I was able to really start to kind of function in prison. You know, I went through a lot of depression. So I had seen some counselors in there. You know, I'm just being honest. Like, I was able to get my GED. I was able to get anger management, counseling. And everything looked on the up, but there was one thing that I really couldn't get rid of, and it was this emptiness and this void I had felt inside of my heart. No matter what I did, I really couldn't overcome this emptiness and this void. And it didn't matter what I did. You know, I just always felt this sadness and feeling inadequate as a human being. And so, you know, some of the older homies, the people in there, the people who kind of like represent us, we usually look to them for advice. So one of the older guys, some old Chinese dude, he's like, bro, you should start reading, you know, and working out and kind of get your mind off of things. Cause he noticed that I was kind of like an overthinker. And so I started reading. I read the Quran in there front to back 3 times, read the Bible in there front to back 2 times. And, you know, it didn't really do anything for me, honestly. So I get out after doing my stretch. I parole out of CRC Norco, and I meet my mom, you know, and she didn't really visit me much. She's an older lady. She didn't know how to navigate the correctional facilities and stuff like that, so she didn't really visit me. But I noticed a difference in my mom. You know, she had this inner peace about her that I really didn't understand, because mind you, she has not just me, but my brother, 2 kids in prison, who were incarcerated. My brother did also 12 years. And, she was still married to my father, her husband, who was still an abusive alcoholic person. She still lived in Section 8. She still had, you know, all that trauma and stuff like that. But she had no circumstances to be happy, but I realized that she was happier than I was, you know? And so I asked my mom, why are you so happy? You know, what changed?
Be sure to stick around for part 2 and share this with someone that you know that might be going through some of the same things Johnny's going through. Part 2, we talk about the breaking point when the street stops making sense.